Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable President Kumaratunga, distinguished panelists, Excellencies, and my friends here. When I was invited by President Kumaratunga to come here to be present in this conference, I took it as an order from a president. When you get an invitation from a president, it becomes an order. You don't dare to say no. So I followed the order and I present myself here. And I'm delighted to be here because this gives me an opportunity to meet many of my longtime friends here, particularly my dear friend Arya Ratna and many others. Also to kind of brief you what's going on with me and what's going on with the work that I'm doing. So I see this as a great reunion for me. And thank you, Shankar, for your generous introduction. When a Bengali introduces another Bengali, one tends to get carried away. So you get this with a pinch of salt. But he did one thing. He took my speech away. He's told you everything that I'm supposed to say. This is the kind of work that I'm doing over time. And many of you are familiar with the Grameen Bank. Many have been doing microcredit. I just met here many of our friends who are actively engaged in microcredit. And today, microcredit in Grameen Bank has come a long way. But there are certain features I think I should reiterate to highlight the aspects of Grameen Bank, aspects of microcredit. Today, Grameen Bank in Bangladesh works in every single village of Bangladesh. We have 8.3 million borrowers, mostly women, 97% are women. When they join Grameen Bank, usually very destitute women, daring to take a loan of the size of $30, $40. And touching that money, using that money, gives them an enormous amount of courage. And paying it back, earning money, gives amount of dignity she never experienced before. That part of the story about microcredit is understood. What is not well understood is that the bank, Grameen Bank, is owned by them. They own the 97% of the bank shares. So not only they are borrowers of Grameen Bank, they are also the owners of Grameen Bank. That piece gets missed out. As owners of Grameen Bank, they sit in the board of Grameen Bank. And they decide the policies of the bank. So basically, illiterate women from the villages of Bangladesh get elected within the Grameen Bank system to come and sit as a director of the bank and be members of the board. That needs to be emphasized, that the largest bank in the country can be owned by poor women. And it could be a bank which can win Nobel Peace Prize. I think in the history of Nobel Peace Prize, Grameen Bank is the only business organization ever to receive a Nobel Peace Prize. I think that's a very significant thing, that the organization, an institution owned by poor women can rise at that level. And that also created some problems for us Because while we are insisting this is a bank owned by poor women, is a private bank, but somehow government felt that this should be treated as a government bank. So that's a clash that you see in the newspapers. Another aspect that I should mention, that we've emphasized that we lend money to the poor women, and that gets publicized in the media. We lend out over $1.5 billion a year in tiny loans going to the poor women. So that's a lot of money in the hands of the poor women, handling this money, paying it back. While that is very important, but one fact doesn't get mentioned. None of this money comes from outside. It's all internally generated money. We don't take money from the government. We don't take money from international organizations. All this money comes from the deposits we take from around the branches. And that money, deposit money, goes out as a loan. We never felt any shortage of funds. We have plenty of money to lend out to. Another aspect of it is always missed out. When we say we take deposits, people immediately assume that maybe the rich people deposit in the bank and the bank gives this money to the poor people. Partially it is true, but it's not the whole truth. More than 50% of the deposits come from the borrower themselves. The poor woman saves money, and that saving becomes a tremendous amount of resource to lend out to poor women. So out of the $1.5 billion that we lend out, nearly $1 billion is the deposits of the borrower themselves. Because within Grameen Bank system, the rule is every person must save, even if it is a tiny little money, doesn't matter. But she must have a savings account, at least one savings account, and put whatever amount she can save every week. In the beginning, it looks very funny to have almost like pennies putting into savings account. But when you do it over many, many years, with many, many people, it becomes a huge money. And today their balance is nearly $1 billion in savings account. And I mentioned this to my friends in Bangladesh who are big business people. I tell them that don't ignore these little poor women that, they take such a small loans, $30, $50, $100. I said, you must recognize that put together, they have enough money to buy your company over many times. That's the kind of cash resource they have in their command. What we tried to do over time, not only concentrate on these poor women, at the same time got involved in many other issues, including the children of these families. These are illiterate women who borrow from Grameen Bank because they are poor, they remain illiterate, never went to school. But we wanted to make sure their children go to school. So we took ourselves in the bank that we should make sure that 100% of the children of Grameen families be in school. And we pursued it and made it happen. We're very happy that we could succeed in that, making 100% of the children going to school. Then they started moving into higher classes in school. We didn't realize that they will continue beyond primary education, but they did. They continued beyond primary education. Many of them finished their high schools. They wanted to go to higher education. Their performance is so good. So we started giving them education loans. Today, with education loans from Grameen Bank, thousands and thousands of students, more than 52,000 students right now, are in medical schools, engineering schools, universities. Many of them have PhDs. So we have a completely new second generation who are as enterprising, as intelligent, as creative as any young person anywhere in the world. So it's not simply lending money for raising chicken and raising cows, selling milk, and make extra bucks. It's a transformation of the family itself. These young people, when they come out of the universities, the colleges, the medical degrees and so on, they always worry, where's my job? I don't find any job anywhere. In the beginning, we were puzzled how to handle this because Bangladesh doesn't offer too many jobs. So we came up with an idea and started promoting that. We kept telling them, look, you have to have a different kind of thinking than the other kids because you are a privileged young people in the country. You should be having a pledge for yourself, a promise, a commitment for yourself. And every morning you should repeat this pledge. And the pledge is, I'm not a job seeker. I'm a job giver. So think like a job giver, not think like a job seeker. There's a big difference between a job giver and a job seeker. So you grow up to become a job giver rather than a job seeker. They get very puzzled. How do I do that? I don't have a job. Now he tells me to become a job giver. I point out that, look, your mother owns a bank. Money is not your problem. Your mother's bank have unlimited money. Why don't you come up with ideas how to use this money? Use the money in a way, not only you create your own jobs, you create jobs for many other young people like yourself. And if you have no idea where you start the job, where you start the business, just look at your mother. She has started her business with $50 loan, $100 loan, and came all the way to now borrow $500 or $1,000, $10,000. She made a life of entrepreneur. What good is your education if you cannot do better than your illiterate mother? So it's a challenge. You can take the example that has been created by your mother, expand that business 50 times, 100 times as big, and make it a business of your own. So this is another kind of track that we are following, and many of these young people now creating businesses of their own. And Grameen Bank provides all the financial support to that. While we are doing the microcredit thing, we saw lots of other problems, as Shankar was explaining to you. And every time I see a problem, my instinctive reaction to that is to solve that problem by creating a business. So I'm always looking at problems as an opportunity to address them by creating a business. And over time I did that. Mentioned about the seed, about the telephone company and so on. And I created more than 50 such companies. Some are huge companies. And each one was created to solve a specific problem. Like we created a company to bring solar energy in the country. Named it Grameen Shakti or Grameen Energy. And the purpose is to bring electricity in the rural households because Bangladesh doesn't have enough electricity in the villages. 70%